Picture this. You're standing in front of decision makers, your heart's doing that weird drumbeat thing, and you suddenly realize everyone in the room thinks your idea is terrible. Your palms start doing that sweaty thing they do before job interviews. Your throat feels like you swallowed sandpaper, and that presentation you rehearsed 17 times suddenly sounds like you're reading someone else's grocery list. But here's what blew my mind when I started studying executives who actually make it to the top. They don't just survive these moments, they absolutely thrive in them. Only about 8% of working professionals ever figure this out. The rest of us either turn into bulldozers or disappear completely when someone pushes back. Meanwhile, the conversations that could define our careers slip away because we fall apart the moment someone disagrees with us. You know that feeling when you completely bomb something important and you just sit in your car afterwards staring at the steering wheel? That was me after presenting to our executive team about delaying a major product launch. I thought my spreadsheets would save me. I thought data was armor. Turns out data is more like a paper umbrella in a hurricane. The CFO started poking holes in my numbers. Sales jumped in about client promises. And instead of staying cool, I turned into this defensive, interrupting version of myself. My voice went up like I'd inhaled helium. By the end, I was practically begging while the CEO sat there with that expression, you know the one, where they're mentally already in their next meeting. Sitting in that parking garage, I actually opened LinkedIn and started browsing job postings. That's when it hit me. The problem wasn't the company or the situation, it was me. I needed to crack the code on how some people turn opposition into opportunity while others just don't. Because let's be real about today's workplace. Everyone's stressed, resources are tight, opinions couldn't be more divided if we tried. Your ability to navigate conflict might be the most valuable professional skill you never learned in school. Difficult conversations aren't just awkward exchanges you endure. They're these complex psychological minefields where everything that matters professionally explodes at once. Your emotional intelligence, persuasion abilities, conflict resolution skills, and how you show up as a leader when it actually counts. Researchers call these high-stakes interpersonal negotiations with identity implications. Translation: moments where people judge your professional worth while you're under maximum pressure. And it feels personal because it is personal. Most of us default to one of two equally disastrous approaches. Either you come in swinging, defending every point, explaining until everyone's eyes glaze over, trying to dominate through sheer volume. Or you fold like a lawn chair, nodding along while internally screaming, then venting to colleagues later about how unfair everything is. Neither approach works at all. What separates the 8% who master this from everyone else is a third path. It's about maintaining your center while strategically guiding conversations toward productive outcomes, even when things get heated enough to melt steel. Here's something that took years to understand. Opposition isn't your enemy. It's your greatest visibility opportunity. Think about it. Nobody ever really sees what you're made of when everyone's nodding along in agreement. Picture this scenario. You're a marketing director who spent months crafting a campaign strategy. In the review meeting, the CEO systematically dismantles your work in front of everyone. Your instinct screams to defend each criticism point by point. But what if you did something completely different? What if you listened? Not that fake listening where you're rehearsing rebuttals, but actually listened. Then said something like, "You're highlighting some risks I need to address better. These concerns matter." Asked specific questions about what worried them most. Then reframed everything. It sounds like we all want to increase market share without compromising our premium positioning. Could we examine these approaches side by side? The entire room dynamic shifts. Stanford researchers found this approach increases perceived competence by over 30% compared to getting defensive, even when you're factually wrong about something. The paradox is beautiful. Appearing less certain makes you seem more competent. Remember the last time someone challenged something you cared about at work? That flush of heat across your face. The way your thoughts start racing while simultaneously feeling like your brain is buffering at 14% capacity. That internal voice frantically drafting responses before they finish talking. You used to think the goal was winning these conversations, getting your point across, proving you were right. But that's like thinking the purpose of a bridge is to stand on it and admire the architecture. Bridges exist to get you somewhere you couldn't reach otherwise. After years of trial and error, emphasis on error, here's what actually works. It's built on human psychology rather than debate tactics, which is why most people never figure it out. First, dig for the concern beneath the opposition. Most counterarguments are just poorly expressed worries. Second, validate the emotion without necessarily agreeing with the position. Third, bridge to common ground with some version of what we both care about is. Picture a financial advisor whose client storms in waving statements, furious about investment performance. The old approach would be immediate defense mode, market conditions, benchmarks, industry comparisons, all the usual deflections. Instead, try leaning in slightly. You're clearly frustrated with these numbers. That shows how much your family's financial security means to you. That matters to me too. Let's look at our strategy in light of your goals and see what adjustments make sense. The client not only stayed but brought in his business partner the following month. Not because the market magically improved, but because tension transformed into trust through genuine engagement with the underlying concern. This approach doesn't come naturally to anyone. Picture presenting a leadership development program to an executive team. High stakes, weeks of preparation. 10 minutes in, their COO, this intimidating guy with laser focus, cuts you off mid-sentence. This sounds like theoretical fluff. We need practical solutions for real problems, not abstract concepts. The room goes silent except for the air conditioning. 20 people staring, waiting. The old you might have gotten defensive or started rattling off credentials. Instead, you take one deep breath. That's exactly the right concern. You need results, not just ideas. Would it help if I shared specific case studies from similar companies first, then showed how they connect to the framework? His expression shifts slightly. By session end, he's suggesting which departments should go through the program next. Not because you convinced him you were right initially, but because you demonstrated respect for his priorities instead of defending your approach. Something remarkable happens neurologically when you shift from defensive to curious. When you respond to criticism with genuine questions instead of justifications, your brain literally changes its chemical composition. Fewer stress hormones, more connection-oriented neurotransmitters. For beginners, there's a simple phrase that works like magic. Help me understand your perspective better. It creates crucial space for de-escalation. More advanced practitioners can try perspective taking. From where you sit, what concerns you most about this approach? This technique helped a pharmaceutical executive break through FDA conversations that had been deadlocked for months. The shift from defending to understanding unlocked approval 3 months ahead of revised projections. Something fascinating is happening in companies that consistently outperform competitors. They're intentionally creating productive disagreement sessions. Instead of avoiding difficult conversations, they're designing specific spaces for them. Harvard Business Review highlighted companies with cultures of psychological safety during disagreement. The performance differences were staggering. 50% better innovation metrics. Most workplace cultures still operate on this unspoken assumption that disagreement equals disrespect. But teams breaking new ground understand something different. As one R&D leader puts it, the quality of our disagreements directly determines the quality of our decisions. Write that down somewhere, you'll see it regularly. Here's something concrete you can use immediately. This 4-step approach has transformed outcomes for hundreds of professionals. First, prepare mentally by identifying your trigger points. Everyone has specific phrases or situations that bypass rational thinking and activate emotional responses. Know yours before walking into important conversations. Practice self-regulation techniques that actually work for you. Real diaphragmatic breathing, not shallow chest breaths. Mental reframing, specific visualizations. Find your method. Second, open difficult conversations by establishing mutual purpose. My goal is understanding your perspective so we can find the best path forward. This creates psychological safety from the start. Third, when tensions rise, and they will, switch to curiosity mode with specific questions. What aspects concern you most? Or what would an ideal outcome include from your perspective? Finally, summarize areas of agreement before addressing differences. We both want to increase efficiency, though we see different paths there. This creates alignment that makes differences feel less threatening. Mastering these techniques requires practice in low-risk environments before applying them in high-stakes situations. That's why CreativeView.coach provides daily conversation simulations with personalized coaching. The 30-day Confident Communication Challenge guides you through increasingly challenging workplace scenarios. You receive immediate feedback on responses and alternative approach suggestions. It's like having a communication expert available whenever you need to prepare for important interactions. What makes this different from traditional coaching is both accessibility, less than 2% the cost of executive coaching, and complete privacy. You can practice responses to high-risk situations without anyone watching you figure it out. You now understand the framework for handling opposition with confidence. But knowledge alone rarely creates lasting change. We've all consumed content that made perfect sense in the moment, then completely forgot the principles when we needed them most. Visit CreativeView.coach if you're ready to transform how you handle difficult conversations. Don't wait for the next challenging interaction to practice these skills for the first time. What challenging conversation are you facing right now? What makes it difficult? Which techniques might help most? Share in the comments. These insights help everyone learn Thank you for investing this time in your professional growth. These skills have transformed countless careers and, more importantly, reduced the anxiety that used to accompany important meetings. Next time, we'll explore delivering unpopular decisions, communicating choices people won't initially like in ways that build commitment rather than compliance. Remember something that takes years to fully grasp. The conversations that make you most uncomfortable often hold your greatest opportunities for growth and influence. Your next difficult conversation might be your next breakthrough moment.